If you are looking to relocate to a luxury market somewhere within the state of Florida, I would definitely consider St. Augustine, and many others from New York City, LA, Miami, and Orlando are relocating to our area, and there's plenty of reasons why. What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, your go-to luxury realtor. And if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida. So what I want to do in today's video is give you a general overview of why so many luxury buyers are moving to our area here in Northeastern Florida. We're going to cover things like the affordability here. We're going to compare this to other major markets like LA, like New York City. And we're also going to talk about some of the best things about living here in St. Augustine, which actually makes it perfect for that luxury clientele. So the first thing that I want to cover is what are the major metropolitan areas that are relocating to Northeastern Florida. Now, when we're talking about Northeastern Florida, we're really talking about Jacksonville, we're talking about St. Augustine, and we're talking about Flagler County. Now, I cover all of those areas, but I'm primarily in this video going to be talking about living in St. Augustine because that is where I live, and I think it is a fantastic market for people relocating in the luxury sector. Now, the main thing that I think is drawing people to our market is going to be the affordability. So if you're looking at New York City real estate, you're looking at LA real estate, you're looking at Miami, those all coincide with being more expensive markets. Everyone knows that. That is no secret at all. But when you're talking about like a coastal town like St. Augustine, you're not actually seeing the same exact expense. And what I want to do is I want to take a look over at Zillow, and we're just going to go into LA, we're going to go into New York, and we're going to go into Miami. And what we're going to do is just sort it, right? And we're going to start it from the most expensive to the least expensive. And I'm going to show you just how different it is for luxury real estate here in St. Augustine than it is for those other places. And it's a huge difference. So the first question we got to ask is, who are the people that are relocating to Northeastern Florida? Well, the person that's in the number one spot is going to be South Florida. It's going to be Miami. Then you also have New York. So you have a lot of people relocating from the Northeast, of course, because it's, everyone retires here in Florida if they're from New York. Then you also have Washington, D.C. You have Atlanta, Georgia. And then surprisingly, you also have Orlando at the number 5 spot and L.A. at the number 6 spot. There are a couple of other cities, but for our purpose, I think that's going to make my point here. So what I want to do is jump onto the computer. I want to take a look at Zillow, and we're going to sort out what the price point is for a lot of these cities, and just take a look in general from highest price to lowest price where they start out compared to our area here. Okay, so the first place that I want to take a look at is going to be Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'm born in Brooklyn. My dad still lives in Brooklyn, lives at Sunset Park. When I lived there, I lived over in Sunset Park as well, but I worked in Bay Ridge at the Wicked Monk. And actually, this house right here is right around the corner from the Wicked Monk, 9017 Ridge Boulevard. But what I want you to pay attention to is really like how high their market goes, right? Now, we're talking about two vastly different places, right? They still have that historic aspect of them, but we're talking about a major metropolitan area with, public transportation out the wazoo. And it's just in a much, much more densely populated area. So there's a lot of differences between these for sure. But if you just take a look at the top end of the market for what you get to $30 million, now this is a complex here, and there's several apartments that you're going to be buying. But then you see $18 million for 9,000 square feet, $17 million for 6,500 square feet, and $12 million or $13 million for 7,200 square feet. And don't get me wrong, all these homes are beautiful. I mean, this home here is ideal. Me and my wife would love to live here. I mean, in Bay Ridge, that's a fantastic neighborhood in Brooklyn. We love Bay Ridge. I love the Wicked Monk. Love going over to the Shore Park. It's just amazing out there. This is a beautiful home. Don't get me wrong. But for $1.595 million here in St. Augustine, you can get an oceanfront house. You can get a home on the intercoastal. And that may not mean a lot to a lot of people that love the city, but if you're trying to get out, that's definitely going to be an attraction. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the Miami area. Now, once again, Miami coincides with expensive, but did you realize it was this expensive? Their luxury market has a way higher top end than our luxury market does. 35,000 square feet, 150 million, 12,000 square feet, 135 million, 80 million for new construction, 10,000 square feet, 69 million, 12,159 square feet. I'm not saying this is not worth it. Now, to me, it's definitely not. I would not want to live in Miami. It's too hot for me year round. They get hit with way too many hurricanes. And we'll talk about that more later in this video. But the price difference of their luxury market, especially compared to our area, is going to be a stark contrast. And we'll get into that in just one second once we check out LA. So LA, same thing. Huge price discrepancy. Now, of course, we don't have any 50,000 square feet properties here, but $200 million, $150 million for a 19,000 square foot place, $137 million for a 56,000 square foot place, $126 million, and several other hundreds of millions of dollars properties, right? So they have that type of market there. They have that type of buyer there. Now let's take a look at St. Johns County. Now, all I did is I took St. Johns County and I listed it from high to low. I also, the beginning of our luxury market, it's typically in most markets going to be the top 10% of your market. So we have 800,000, which is going to be the start of our luxury market here. So you still get a fantastic house for 800,000 in our area. But take a look at these prices, guys. I mean, this is a good example here. This is in Ponte Vedra, so this is very north in St. Johns County. But you can see you get an oceanfront home, 10,000 square feet for $18 million. Now, that is a lot different than what you're going to pay for in Miami for this same exact home, for what you're going to pay for in LA. In Brooklyn, you can't even get this type of home, really. I mean, it's there are a couple single-family detached homes, but you're not going to have this much land. You're not. I mean, maybe you'll be oceanfront. That's probably very far out in Brooklyn, but you're not going to get this type of home. So the luxury market here is just a lot different, and this is just one example. There's two different really types of luxury here. I feel like there's like a lifestyle. There's two different lifestyles here. You have like the family lifestyle, and then you have like, hey, I don't have my kids in the house anymore. I want what I want. And you're moving to a different area where you want to be on the intercoastal so you can fish every day. You want to be on the beach. You want that type of thing. And this is another example of that. This is a $15 million home, 12,000 square feet. Beautiful. Access to the St. Johns River. Just a beautiful home. And this is starting at the $15 million price range. And what we're going to do in this video is I really want to cover why people are relocating to our area. Now, affordability was the main reason that we were talking about initially. But affordability isn't the whole picture, right? I think the other thing is looking at the city of Jacksonville. We are, in a way, here in St. Augustine, a suburb of Jacksonville. Jacksonville, for the longest time, has been an extremely cheap metropolitan area. It really didn't even become a metropolitan area till the COVID boom, right? We had so many people relocate to our area, bumped our numbers up above 1 million people, and now everything in Jacksonville seems to be taking a different turn, where for many, many years, the North Bank, the South Bank of Jacksonville wasn't even looked at all. Now there's millions and millions of dollars being invested in the North Bank, to the South Bank, into all areas of Jacksonville to make it a better metropolitan area. And with that, there's coming a ton of jobs, right? And people, especially in the luxury market, see that and they want to be where that opportunity is. And that also means, especially when you're comparing all these other luxury markets, that we have a much higher top end for our luxury market than, let's say, the $150 million place in Miami or the $150 million place in California. We have a much further span to go to reach that, when really the top of our luxury market's around 15 to 20 million. Aside from all that, when you're in Jacksonville, you're very far northeast in Florida. And one of the best things about that is that you're close to the Jacksonville International Airport, you're close to the Orlando International Airport, there's the Daytona International Airport. So you have 3 major international airports within an area, within 2-hour drive of your location here in St. Augustine. Then you also have, just being that far north in Florida, driving pretty much anywhere within the country is going to be much, much easier, but flying is going to be much easier too. So that makes it a very attractive area. Now, of course, if you're moving from Miami, you already benefit from no state income tax here in Florida. But if you're moving from like LA or New York, you're going to see a huge benefit from moving here. Now, of course, your insurance is going to be different. We're going to talk about that in terms of the affordability in a second. But when you're moving to this area here, you have no state income tax. So if you're moving from New York City or moving from LA, that's going to be a stark difference in your income. The next thing I want to talk about, and one of the main reasons that we see people moving from Miami to our area, is going to be the affordability when it comes down to insurance. Now, our insurance is much, much cheaper than it is in South Florida. Just a fact. Have we seen premiums increase over these past couple of years? 100%. Everyone in Florida is in that same boat. but we have not seen that same level of increase that a lot of people in South Florida have seen. And that's because northeastern Florida has historically been pretty safe when it comes down to these hurricanes and flood activities, right? You move to Florida, that is part of living here in Florida. But if you're living in Miami, you're getting hit a lot more than you are when you're living up here in northeastern Florida, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Palm Coast. And that's backed by statistics. I'll show you a graph here, and it takes a look at the past 124 years of hurricane landfalls. And when you look at St. Johns County, we've only had 4 major hurricanes make landfall within the past 124 years. Compare that to the Miami area, compare that to the Panhandle. We're doing much, much better than those areas. Aside from that, our building code doesn't require us to build the same way as they do in South Florida. In South Florida, because of the constant hurricanes, because of the higher wind speed on average, they have to build with concrete blocked hurricane impact windows. And because we're here in northeastern Florida and we don't get that same level of hurricane, we don't have to build that same way. Now, many of the luxury homes that you're going to be looking at are going to be that, right? It's just what it is when you build a better product. But in general, when it comes down to the insurance issue here in Florida, northeastern Florida has been very insulated because our average wind speed during a hurricane is 120 mile per hour. So the building code only requires it to build at that 120 mile per hour range. So our luxury market, that's why it can start at 800,000 and go up to 20 million instead of 150 million. Obviously, that's a huge gap to jump there. There's a whole bunch of other factors besides the insurance there, but that is one of the major reasons that we're seeing a lot of people move from South Florida, Miami in particular, up to northeastern Florida. Now, we talked about the weather a little bit. Now, we talked about Miami and how I said it's too hot there for me. I lived in New York, and honestly, the weather's pretty good year-round in New York City. It doesn't get too much snow. It does get cold, and getting on that public transportation, getting in your car when it's all icy, driving anywhere in there is a pain. And LA, they have great weather, right? But they also have fires. So they don't have hurricanes, but they have fires, and they've had the same kind of issue really when it comes down to hurricanes as fires. Hurricanes in Florida, people are losing insurance. Fires in LA and California, people have lost insurance. Both kind of bad situations, right? But one of the main things that I think draws people to northeastern Florida is just going to be the weather in general. Now, South Florida, tropical, right? You're going pretty much south of Orlando, you're going to have year-long tropical weather. So it's always hot pretty much all the time. The one good thing about living here in northeastern Florida is that we actually get a little bit of a break from the heat. Now, typically during the winter months, right, which is December, January, February here for the most part, we're going to see the average temperature be around 75 degrees, right? Which is fantastic. It's honestly the best time of the year to live here. Of course, during the summer, we get the dog days of summer where we have 100% humidity and it's 90 degrees. But when I lived in New York City, it was the same thing, right? Except the worst part about it was that I had to get on a subway and there was no AC down in the train station. There was no, some of the trains had AC, but some of them didn't too. So you're sweating that entire time. Then you got to walk everywhere. Here, it's all based on cars, right? So if it's hot, you hop into your AC car, you go into an AC building, go into your AC house. In New York, it's not the same. Now, California probably has us beat on the weather, aside from the fires. So I can't really speak too much on that. But if you look at the chart that I'm going to show you here, you can see that we have just about as much of what they would call the best weather days as Southern California does. So it's very comparable. Would I say I would definitely love some mountains here in Florida? They got that in California. We don't have that here, but we definitely have more of a greener brush in marshlands and stuff like that. So we have our own kind of appeal going on. So in general, the weather here in northeastern Florida is pretty great. Now, we don't get hit with hurricanes as much. Year round, it's probably, during the winter, it's probably around 75 degrees on average. Otherwise, it's probably between 80, 85 degrees. During the dog days of summer, it's going to be 85 to 95 degrees, right? So it does get hot. But the good thing is that we have the beach, we have the intercoastal, we have year-round outdoor activities that you can do. When you're up north, pretty much everyone just shuts their doors for 6 months, says, I'm not going outside. Either that or I'll meet you at the bar and we're going to have a drink. California, you got great weather, so year-round you probably always have something to do. South Florida, it gets so hot in South Florida. And I mean, it's constantly hot all the time. So yes, you have year-round activities. You can hop on the boat, you can hop on the beach, you go down to Brickell, whatever you want to do. But it's still not as nice when you're up here in northeastern Florida and you get that little bit of a break during the year. So I think that overall, northeastern Florida's weather is the best in the entire state of Florida. So that's one thing to keep in consideration. Aside from that, we also have here in St. Johns County, I think it's 42 miles of white sand beaches that are literally beautiful. They're also much, much bigger and not as densely populated as many of the beaches in, I mean, gosh, you go to Coney Island, forget about it. It's a mess. Who wants to go to the beach in Coney Island? It's not great, especially when you've been to great beaches, here in Florida or in Miami. Go to Coney Island and you're like, this is kind of a joke. The boardwalk's cool. The mermaid parade's fun. There's a lot of good things about Coney Island. Don't get me wrong, but the beach, it's packed. You're body to body with people when you're there. Now you go out to LA. Of course, they got beautiful beaches. They have beautiful, they have a lot of beautiful things about LA, but you're paying the price for that. Same thing in Miami, right? Whereas here, the price is going to be much, much less. It's going to be less crowded, and it's going to be wider beaches. And I'm not sure if you can drive on beaches in Miami. I don't think you can't drive in Coney Island, that's for sure. Maybe some places in Long Island you can probably drive on the beach. I'm not sure about LA anymore if you can. But here in Florida, you can drive here in St. Augustine, you can drive on the beach, which makes it pretty awesome. If you're not already living on the beach at one of these luxury properties, you can drive right on the beach. Aside from that, we also have the intercoastal. So if you wanted to live opposed to living on the ocean, you can live on the intercoastal. You can have a dock, you can have a boat, whatever size boat you want, as long as you have the tides is something you have to worry about. Tides do go in and out, so you got to just have the draw for the size of your boat. But we have great fishing here in the area. You can go out to the ocean if you want to do some deep sea fishing. You can just go out in the boat. You just go out to a restaurant, whatever you want to do. Park your boat, pull up to the restaurant, go have some lunch, come back home, go watch some fireworks for 4th of July or for the New Year, whichever you want to do. Being outside here in northeastern Florida is definitely one of the best things about living. And that's not to mention, of course, we have great golf courses. You want to go golfing? The Players Championship is played here every single year in Ponte Vedra. It's in Sawgrass. That's also a community you could choose to live in. Average price point around there is like 1.1 million. If you want to go on a kayak, you want to do some fishing off of a bridge, you want to play some disc golf, you want to, there's just a ton of things to do here in northeastern Florida if you want to be outside. And to tie all that in together, we do also have a historic aspect of that. So if you're looking for more of a historic home, St. Augustine's the nation's oldest city. The downtown area of St. Augustine is the historic section. So if a lot of the homes there are under the Historic Architectural Review Board, so they've been designated as a historic home. You can't change the outside facade of it, and it's extremely beautiful. There's one house I went to a couple years ago called 103 Marine Street, right on downtown, right, like the main drag in downtown, but just off the main drag. So it's very residential where it's at, but beautiful home that was redone completely, remodeled from the studs up. On the inside, the outside looks like it was built, I think it was built in 1901 if I remember correctly. But there's even older homes than that in this area as well. That's because it's the nation's oldest city. It was established in 1565. So if you're looking for golf communities, if you're looking for waterfront communities, if you're looking for a gated community, if you're looking for an oceanfront home, amongst all of those, you're going to be able to find exactly what you want at a lower price point in more favorable weather than the majority of the places that we're talking about. I was talking about more of the outdoor things to do, right? But of course, St. Augustine has a bustling entertainment scene. They're just starting to redo the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall, so you're further north in the county where a lot of the luxury buyers and sellers live. That's going to be more in Ponte Vedra, but they have a lot of great comedians that go through there, a lot of great bands that go through there, and they're completely redoing it. I don't think it's open right now, but it's set to open later this year. Then we also have the St. Augustine Amphitheater, who brings a whole bunch of great acts. They actually sell more tickets than Red Rocks every single year, and that's because we're open year-round. So it's not necessarily that they're getting more people. Well, they are getting more people through the door, but we just have a longer time to sell tickets. They got the snow and ice up there. Can't sell tickets during that time. But they bring some great bands through there. Typically, every year, Willie Nelson comes here. I don't know if you're a big Willie Nelson fan. I'm not. But we saw OAR there. We saw Modest Mouse. Oh, Modest Mouse is coming this year. Sorry, I blanked a little bit. We saw Milky Chance, and we also saw Young the Giant here. They have a ton of great bands coming to the St. Augustine area, and it's a 4,000-seat amphitheater. It's all outdoor. Very similar, if you're familiar in New York, to Jones Beach. That's a great little amphitheater out there. It's not directly on the beach, but it is. St. Augustine Amphitheater is within a state park. It's in the Anastasia State Park. So it's still a beautiful area, canopied by trees, and it's a great venue. Aside from that, right, we have a great music and entertainment scene, but downtown and throughout the rest of St. Augustine, we have a lot of great local music here in the area. Pretty much a good majority of the bars and restaurants always have live music throughout the week. So that's a really nice thing. And then aside from that, Our bar and restaurant scene here has exploded these past couple of years, and it's really been, and the city's even said that they're curtailing the downtown historic area to more of a luxury clientele. And that's because they want to reduce traffic and they want to increase the prices, which you can 100% see if you go downtown. You know, a cocktail anymore costs north of $10. Pretty much you're going out for you and another, you and a date, let's say, you're going to spend at least $100 just between you getting an appetizer, entree, and dessert and some drinks. It's at least going to be $100 when you're going out downtown. But plenty of great restaurants, just to name a few. River and Fort just opened that. It's right across from the Castillo di San Marco. You have 3 levels. They have a rooftop bar. You can look at the waterfront. You can look at the castle there. The castle, it's a fort. You look at the fort there, and they have really great food. I've actually never been a fan of like steak stuffed with something, but they do a steak stuffed with shrimp that is phenomenal. Then they also have Llama, which is on the other side of the bridge, not in the historic district, but Llama's a Peruvian restaurant that's run by a local guy here. And they've won like top 100 restaurants in the country like several years in a row. And it's a fantastic place. Pretty much you can only get reservations on OpenTable, and it's like 2 weeks out. So that kind of wraps up like fun and events and everything that you need to do here in St. Augustine geared towards that luxury market. But the one thing I do want to talk about is going to be just the market in general. Now, when we take a look at like active listings, you can see that our luxury market has had a spike of active listings. But that shouldn't concern you too much because we have a ton of new construction here. And like I said, our luxury market really starts at the 800,000 and above price point. So that's not, there's different levels of luxury. I would consider 800 to 3 million like the entry level luxury, and then above that is going to be just like the ultra luxury. So once you're getting north of 3 million, you're really in a different price bracket and you're looking for different things. When you're in that 800 to 3 million, it's just a different market in general, and a lot of people are moving up into that. Where you're north of 3 million, typically you're just like extremely wealthy. So if you take a look at the active inventory, you can see that the luxury market has had an increase in active inventory on the market. But like I said, that's because of the new construction. That's because price points in general have gone up about 60% since 2019. So the whole market has kind of pulled up a good bit, which leads to more active listings in that price point. But the one thing that I think is important to take a look at is looking at the closings that have happened. So if you look at like several years ago, in 2019, you can see that their closings were around, 10 closings a month, right? But if you look now, you can see that our luxury market is pumping pretty significantly. And that's, once again, because of that new construction, because of the price increases. But you can see that our luxury market is right around 80 closings a month right now. So that's north of 800,000, which is a huge difference, right? And I think that's one of the key things to look at is that from what we can see as realtors here, and for what I can tell from the general area, the luxury market has just taken off like a rocket ship. And it seems that what other people are seeing, what I'm saying about St. Augustine, other people are seeing, and they're making that jump to move here. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be cash sales, right? So how many of these properties north of 800,000 are being purchased with cash? And I was really surprised when I saw the statistics. So I looked at a couple of different price tiers, and you could see pretty much between like the 300 and 800 range, it was right around 20, 25%, sometimes even lower when you're getting into that 300, 400,000 range. So that to me was like, wow, you expect that to be a lot higher because we still have so many people relocating here that aren't in that luxury bracket, but they still have money from whether they're retiring or they have a great job or whatever that is. They still have money to buy places in cash. And especially with the interest rates, you would expect more people paying in cash than waiting on a mortgage. So I was really surprised to see that when you look north of 800,000, typically you're going to see somewhere between 40 and 50% of the transactions are going to be paid with cash. And I think that's something that is really amazing for our area because that's one of 2 homes that are on the luxury market is going to go to a cash buyer, which I just showed you a second before, $15 million property, $13 million property. I think just last month in December, it wasn't active on the market, but it sold for $13 million. They put it on the MLS just as a comp, a comparable, and sold for $13 million cash. Didn't even hit the market. So we're seeing more and more of this activity here in Northeastern Florida, especially in that Ponte Vedra market, than we've seen ever. And I really wanted, I want to give you a general overview of our luxury market. So I want to give you a little anecdotal story of someone I helped in Volano Beach. He bought a beachfront home with 3,000 square feet. It was actually multifamily. Most of the square footage was in the second and third story, whereas the first story was a garage and also like a little 1-bedroom apartment, kitchenette type of thing. So he bought this for $1.2 million in cash, and he's been able to renovate the entire thing, where really the exterior, the inside, the kitchen, whitewash the floors. It looks beautiful. It looks completely different than it did before. And literally right after that, I had an agent call me like, hey, how did you get this for 1.2 million? And it was really, we weren't expecting to get it for 1.2, just to be 100% honest. We actually put in an offer, waited a couple months for it to sit on the market, came back with the same offer, and they accepted it. So it took a little bit of time to get the deal that he wanted, but he was able to get a fantastic deal on an oceanfront property that was 3,000 square feet for $1.2 million, right? And that's really like the bottom level of getting oceanfront. Most of the lots on, if you're buying just a vacant piece of land, it's really going to start at that 750 to $1 million price point, depending on the lot, where it is, all that good stuff. Can go higher. I wouldn't expect it to go really much lower. But that's also really a starting price as well if you are looking to buy a home on the intercoastal, right? If you're looking at a lot, you're probably going to spend somewhere around 750, but you can also find homes, like there's one right across from my grandma's house in Treasure Beach, a little bit further south in St. Augustine, where it's a double wide trailer, but it's right on the intercoastal. Direct across is protected bird preserve, I believe, Moses Creek, I think. So you can't build over there at all. Never will be built. So you look across the intercoastal and it's just green. That's awesome. And the intercoastal, of course, you have the water. But you also have canals and everything throughout that community. That home, I think, is listed right now for $890, right? So if you wanted to get in the bottom and you want to just buy something right on the intercoastal, you could definitely do that. And this double wide trailer is my grandma's neighbor. I knew them for the longest time. It was a nice place. But you might want to do some things to it, right? So you can definitely get in at a lower price point. But that's the good thing. It's like you can get intercoastal, you can access to historical downtown, the beaches, everything that St. Augustine has for around $1 million, whether you want to be on the ocean or you want to be on the intercoastal. So you want to live a boat life, you want to live the beach life, you have both options there. Now, if you wanted to go even further than that, of course, price points go all the way up to like 20 million, right? If you wanted to get a bigger piece of land, if you wanted to be more square footage on ocean in a different neighborhood, you can definitely do that. I'm just trying to give you the good range here. Guys, and that is it. I hope you learned a little bit about the luxury market here in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm going to be coming out with a ton of other tips and videos on luxury market here in St. Augustine, Jacksonville, and Flagler County. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida, make sure you reach out to me and my team. All we try to do is give you the information so that you can make an educated decision on what you want to do, which is buy, sell, or invest here in Northeastern Florida. Until next time, guys, have a good one.